Live here.
Live!
But we don't have to necessarily know what that means.
What's the someday of Black?
I don't
There's
know
a
that we
reason
want to-
this story happens now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the movie writes itself. Ooh. Well,
I'm still streaming. How do I stop streaming? No!
yeah. Here we
Having a
are.
little boogie dance.
Thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday. As much as I love all the creative process, like also thank God it's Friday. I'm tired. By the end of Friday, I'm tired.
Yeah, I think you know? I hear you. Me too. I think it's been a long week, a very productive week. It's been
a
good.
very productive week. Well, happy Friday to you, Ben. And I was seeing you. It's like I'm just seeing you now, but you know, for the sake of our viewers, hey Ben, happy Friday.
Yeah, and for those of you who have never joined us before, I'm Ben Lustig.
And I am not. I'm the fairy Jake mother.
And this is the other one. And here we are to write a movie live for you.
We are doing that. We are doing this live over YouTube. If you're watching over YouTube right now, do us a favor. Just hit subscribe, like this video. We're trying to get this video to be seen by as many people who will find it useful as possible. Obviously, YouTube has its algorithms. And the more subscribers you have, the more likes you have, the more likely it is to appear in searches. So please just do us a favor. We'll wait. Great. Okay, thanks for doing it. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. But in all seriousness, that just helps the visibility for our channel, just helps people who would really find this content interesting and useful in their career. Again, as screenwriters, and also I think in any creative writing endeavor.
I think it's great. All right. So Jake is going to give us...
I'll give us a little recap. Okay, so previously on Ben and Jake Write a Movie. I have to do that in like my Optimus Prime voice. We, at the start of this process, came with 0 ideas, and we very quickly arrived at a great idea. Essentially, it's Midnight Run by way of the Terminator with a demon and the Antichrist. What does that mean? Well, keep watching and we'll find out. We've spent the last week and a half, 2 weeks now, really honing that idea down. And we have started to lay out rough structure. And in our last session, we really began to delve into the depths and complexities of our human character, who we are calling Sam. We imagine she'll be played by someone like a Florence Pugh or a Haley Steinfeld. We made some really great discoveries about not only about her as a character, but also about the plot that will arrive out of the questions that we answered during that session. Today, however, we are going to focus on the other main protagonist of our movie, who we imagine being played by someone like Charlize Theron. And in fact, currently we're calling her Charlize, but today, Ben, we're going to give her a name.
A name. Oh, we've got to give her a name. You know, it's a funny thing about names. People get really obsessed over names. And I understand why. I mean, names are a big thing in our culture. And it always is kind of annoying and also amusing to me when people comment on the princess and the fact that we actually chose not to give the princess a name, as if somehow we didn't know enough about her character to give her a name.
Yeah.
Which I just think is preposterous, and clearly anyone who
we got a message. We got some hilarious message on Facebook from a guy who was like, your movie was so bad, the princess didn't even have a name. But I have a script, and if you will collaborate with me on this, then amazing things will happen because I give my characters names. And it's like,
and I just go like, we had one comment by someone as well. And it was an online comment about how we didn't pass the Bestall test because our character didn't have a name. And I was like, wait a minute. Her name is the princess.
Yes.
For the sake of the Bestall test.
Yes, it wasn't Woman 1.
It is the title of the movie.
I know. Are we saying that right? Bestall test?
I think. I don't know. If someone knows how to pronounce it better, please tell me. I don't like mispronouncing.
We know nothing.
But
so,
point is, our demon needs a name. And because unlike the princess, she is not a representation of all princesses or women,
Well,
and thus
yes.
she needs to be specific.
So is there a way? Because I know sometimes us figuring out names for characters looks like this.
Yes, it can. It can.
So
For those of you listening, Jake was just sharing
it's
his
not
face.
going to be interesting while we browse Google for like, what would be a good demon name? So look, why don't we each over the weekend come up with a list of 10 names each on Monday, present them live on air, and then we can have and we can then have that conversation,
right?
Rather than just kind of go. So maybe
I think that's totally fair and fine. I do think that the important aspect of coming up with her name is valuable in terms of where we are going with her character. So,
too.
Today's episode is clearly going to be all about her and who she is. And sometimes it's a very arbitrary thing, people, but sometimes names just feel like the person.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to describe it other than you just hear the name and you go, yeah, that sounds like
interesting. What's interesting and it feeds into what we were talking about the other day about Sam. Now, Samantha is obviously a girl's name, but she has chosen to abbreviate it to Sam. She's chosen to present perhaps a harder version of herself to the world. Hence, she goes by Sam. She doesn't want to be thought necessarily as weak and vulnerable. Not that women are weak and vulnerable by any means, but that she wants to present this side of herself to the world.
And this is why I say it's somewhat arbitrary, because I know a Sam who's like the sweetest, nicest, quietest person ever.
Same.
And I'm sure there are Samanthas out there who are fucking hard
ass
and awesome. So it has nothing to do with any sort of reality behind the name, other than as you're imagining the character, you're getting a feeling, and you're going, this person is this way. Does this name fit? Like, have you ever met a person where you find out their name and you go, oh, that's weird. Like, you don't seem like that.
You don't seem like a blur. Sure.
You know, I used to have the funniest experience. I used to bartend a lot, and my name is Ben. And in a loud and crowded bar, people would ask me my name, and I go, my name is Ben, and they'd go, nice to meet you, Matt. And the funny thing is, it wasn't just one person.
It was a lot of people.
I mean, for years, for whatever reason, people would think my name was Matt. I have no idea why. Ben and Matt do not share one letter.
And soon it became like that episode of Friends where Chandler doesn't let his boss know. His boss keeps getting his name wrong and he doesn't correct him. It's like after the second time, it would just have been weird.
Yeah. Well, I would try and correct people, and like, I swear to God, I go, no, Ben, and they go, Matt. I'm like, what am I? Am I not enunciating enough? Like, I just anyway.
Anyway, there you go. The point being names. Names are important. But Monday we will come. Hey, anyone got any interesting ideas for a name of a demon that could start evil but turn nice?
Don't give us any of those ideas.
Okay,
we'll
fine.
come up with our own creative ideas.
Fine. All right.
But you can give us ideas if you think we're being idiots.
Why are you not calling her Azarath? The name Jake came up in the first episode is perfect.
Perfect. No, not anymore. And that changes too. In fact, we've changed names. You know, it's also an interesting idea, point about names. Names get changed from the draft that we will write to production. Totally. There are characters, one character in particular that I'll reference in The Princess, the character of Lynn. In our script, her name was Saya.
Yes.
Why did she end up being called Lynn? Well, I believe, from my understanding, when they cast Veronica, who is Asian, they wanted a more Asian-sounding name.
Totally. And when we wrote her, we didn't write her specifically as Asian. We wrote her as ethnically ambiguous.
We did not call out her ethnicity at all. Right, we did actually.
Yeah.
So
we wanted to have.
We always did, interestingly, imagine her as a person of color.
Absolutely right. And there was even dialogue in certain early drafts where she referenced a sultan in her land. And so we were trying to infuse something
She was
in that.
definitely
And
from
again,
a faraway place. Even
totally.
in the even in the draft that we sold, she was
Absolutely
from like
right.
a
Yes,
place that
from
was
somewhere else. Sire was a name that you wouldn't read it and go, oh, that's
automatically white.
A white European woman. You would
Right.
immediately bring that with anyway. So yes.
So
it is
anyway, our demon.
our demon. Let's call her Charlize for today, just for the purpose of ease.
Sure thing. We'll continue to call her Charlize. And that's fine. What are the main things that we want to kind of boil down in terms of who she is? And I think one of the interesting things we've been talking about is that it's not as much about what she is as much as it is about who she is. And that is actually her own journey that she is going to be realizing even that.
Well, yeah. I guess I want to start by asking the questions, of she's a demon. What does that mean?
Good question.
What does that mean?
Let's get into the lore.
Let's get into it. And this may express rules as well. But
world building. Now, this is another hysterical and yet totally part of our process, which is we start with the intention of talking about one thing and we will ultimately tangent, because it's important, into something that we realize we haven't cracked yet. And who knows if we'll even get back to her. But let's go into the lore of demon lore for this particular movie.
Absolutely. So in some versions, I feel of demon lore, demons are fallen angels. They were the angels cast out by God after fully one-third of the angelic host.
Are they all? One version. Is that I don't know that version as far as all of the demons being that. I know Lucifer being, and Lucifer's like main guys were like fallen angels, but I don't think of Lucifer as a demon either. Interesting.
Yeah, think of him as a fallen angel.
He's a fallen angel. So I feel like there are fallen angels in hell. Perhaps.
Right.
And that is, of course, if we're going with the legitimate,
totally. If we're going with all that, and again, that's not necessarily biblical. It's more, Milton and Paradise Lost and things like that. So
it's kind of this like amalgamation. We all, there's Hades and this, the underworld, right? The underworld.
So I don't think, so there's again, we could play with that idea or not. It's not what she is when I think about her, though. I think of her as being some kind of minion for the forces of darkness who, if they are allowed to interfere in mankind, because that's for whatever reason they're allowed to, she was one of the people, one of the beings who does this. And therefore, we talked about this before in the past, has she been alive for a very long time? Has she witnessed eons of mankind pass before her eyes? Is she like a Highlander in that sense that's experienced X amount, hundreds or even thousands of years of human history? I'm not sure. Discuss.
Okay. I think for me that while I do think she's probably 1,000 years old or more, I don't think she's been on our plane of existence that whole time. I don't see her as an immortal living among us for that entire time. Now, I know we've talked about her having left the underworld and kind of hidden in like the Colorado mountains. And I think that that's cool. Like she's been among us for a century and hasn't aged. And I go, okay, fine. I do think that demons do, as we kind of understand in popular culture, come and interfere and do evil things and raise darkness amidst humanity. But I don't think it's about permission. I actually think that that's what they do. There's no permission needed for the underworld. The angels need God's permission. The demons, they don't need anybody's permission.
Great. I think that's great. Yeah, totally.
That's what they do. That's who they are.
And why do they do it?
Well, so it's an interesting question. And there's also a very kind of simple answer, which is because that's what demons do. Um, it's one of those things where when you're talking about kind of villains, I remember we were just having a conversation recently, and we were talking about money and the desire for money. And when it's a protagonist and their desire is money, you always want to know, like, well, what is the money for, and why do they want it? What's the emotional underpinning behind the money? When it's a bad guy and they want money, you go, because they want to be rich.
Totally, yeah.
Like,
You're allowed to have.
it,
You're
right?
allowed to. I think with your villains, you're allowed to have those base animal instincts.
So, like,
why are you doing it? I just like to watch things suffer.
Right. So if
get off on
demons
it.
as a whole
Yeah.
don't like humans and like to fuck with them.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you go, what was the original idea, kind of going back to this concept again, Milton, Paradise Lost. Like, Lucifer wanted to fuck with mankind because mankind was God's favorite thing. And it was, I want to make them suffer because I want to make him suffer. You know, something like that, along those lines. And so these creatures, these beings are just infused with that intention. Just going to make them suffer because because that's what the other beings that come, where I come from, that's what they want. That's what he wants.
I do think, though, that for our mythology, we need a little bit more specificity in terms of what Charlize, pre-leaving the underworld, what was her normal existence? Was she part of a, demon SEAL Team 6 that came up to Earth and started, doing like big, horrible
Demon Team 6 is the prequel.
Team 6. Like, was she the kind of demon who possessed people, like in The Exorcist? But then, like, that seems pretty sadistic. Was she the kind of person who, the kind of demon who went on very specific missions for a boss down in the underworld who said, I need this person killed, or this person, for some other grander plan? Because I do think, and what we're creating in this particular mythology is the real myth of the bringer of darkness, the Antichrist, whatever these other cultures may refer to them as, the demons, as well as the Celestials, they all believe this is real. So there is a goal for the demons to want that person to become the bringer of darkness, right? What does that mean to them? Was Charlize a part of that plan? What is their expectations of coming through? When that happens, when the apocalypse comes, does Lucifer rise and the demons take over Earth? Is it just about, more demons down in hell so we can get to like populate ourselves?
That's
like,
interesting.
Are we destroying more souls? And also, what is the purpose for demons fucking with people at all? Other than if it's just to fuck with them, well, doesn't that like also just get boring after a while? I mean, like, unless we're coming up with new and inventive ways. But what's
it's kind of like saying, like, to an uber rich person, like, why do you need more money? And it's like, I like money.
Well,
I don't think it has to be. I don't think it has to be. Well, placing our judgment on that. I think that there is this aspect of like, are you still really doing that? Yeah, it's what I do. I really enjoy doing. I really enjoy making people suffer. But again, I do also hear what you're saying about kind of going for what purpose?
Even in the selfish, superficial nature of I want to be rich, Ben, understand what that means.
Yes.
I know what being rich is, and I know that what that means is things. It means vacations. It means jets. It means private islands. It means escaping in certain people's situations from the law. It means it has. Now, it may not have that emotional thing of I need this money to pay for my mom's cancer treatment. But if a bad guy wants to be rich, they want it for the sake of being rich. It's not just to have money in their bank account. It's to use the money, right?
Sure.
So even if we say, okay, well, the demons, they've been fucking with humanity for the last, 2 millennia
Mhm.
because they're evil and that's what demons do.
Mm.
Well, I don't actually, as a viewer, as an audience member, I don't know exactly what that means in terms
Mm.
of like end result of what you get from it. Even if it's superficial and not emotional,
Mm.
what do I get from that other than just pleasure? And if I only get pleasure, what is that because my existence in the underworld is so miserable that I need to come up here to get
I mean, it's a good. It's interesting.
uh,
I just watched the trailer for the new Hellraiser, and
hmm,
it's so creepy. Obviously, the Cenobites in that are the real villainous, demonic
hmm,
bad guys who live forever in this
right.
hellish existence whereby they no longer differentiate pleasure from pain, and anyone they bring down there, they submit to the same torture that they kind of enjoy getting off on. And that's what they do. But they are humongously villainous characters.
Yeah.
You're not going, you know what? I hope I go on Pinhead's redemption arc in this one. I
Well,
hope by the end.
I mean,
What?
let's be clear. We're not going to worry about our bad demons and
No,
their like
no,
arc of their characters.
of
The
course not.
only reason that we're looking for something deeper is because
Well,
Charlize is also a demon.
but here's the thing. Charlize has rejected that life.
But what was it prior?
Totally. But again,
What is she rejecting? I guess is
sure.
just
I mean,
like,
maybe it
was
is.
she just fucking with people?
Perhaps. And maybe it is as you ask the question, like, is that enough for demons? Well, for most demons, yeah, it was.
Right.
They get a kick out of it. They've been doing it for millennia. And for Charlize, she was like, there's got to be more to the afterlife than this. There's got to be more to existence than this. Pinhead one day woke up and went, you know what? I just want to be on a farm somewhere.
Right.
What is, because she is rejecting that life. There is, which of course is going to make us like her.
And I like that, but I will ask the question of this movie gives the demons a new desire line. And so I think there's a little bit of a conflict between, Charlize obviously was part of the demons pre the understanding that the Antichrist has finally been born.
Yes.
Now, in present day, in our movie, the bringer of doom is among us.
Yeah.
What do the demons hope to gain?
Mm-hmm.
Did Charlize know what that meant to demon kind, or is this new? Mm-hmm. Is there a big bad boss demon that we're going to want to get to know that is like our, bad guy
personification of
or Sauron, or who, is there
our main demon dude,
a main demon dude
who has a history with Charlize?
Correct.
They know each other. They were part of Demon Team 6 together.
And that's the thing. It's like, well, okay, so they know each other. So what? They just like went off and got stoned and possessed people's bodies together, or was there some kind of a grander plan? It's something
is there. We were talking about a ghost for Sam, and ultimately we just kind of went past her ghost. But is there something, which I think is fine, is there something specific with this character for Charlize? And it's like, you're the one who
put her over the edge, right?
Totally.
What made her go, the last 1,200 years was nice, but I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what and why did she all of a sudden develop a conscience? If it has to
and is there
a desire to be
in this movie that she can do that atones, not necessarily atones for, but you go, oh, years and years and years ago, 600 years ago, or whenever it was, Belial, my demon friend, we were going to go and do this thing. And I knew it was wrong. And I didn't stop them. I walked away.
Right. Right.
I didn't stop them. I walked away.
But what's wrong? I guess, and this is where I think we got to really dig deep. Because what is wrong for a demon? And why would she all of a sudden have this thing happen whereby her idea of like, when did she develop a moral compass? Like, do all demons have a moral compass but just choose to ignore good? Or did something happen to her whereby, whatever we want to believe in God is, like, was there something that we learned that actually she was part of the plan? Or
Yeah.
is there an event that is so intense that only this could have taken a demon and given them morality? Because I guess what I'm trying to kind of grasp is she's really complex. So
Yes, she
how
is.
does a really complex character come from a society that we're painting with such a broad, uncomplex brush?
Mm.
And maybe part of that is that we don't, maybe we're shooting ourselves in the foot by going, demons are just, there's just lots of them and they come around and they go and raise hell, because maybe what that does is make them so shallow and simple that then we go, well, why is Charlize different? Like, what makes her different than that? If has there ever been another person like her? Has there ever been, like, I start to ask
okay, all right, okay.
you know?
Is there a way? I'm going to pace. Is there a way for the broad pitch is have they for millennia trying to conspire in the same way as the Bene Gesserit witches in Dune are trying to make the Kwisatz Haderach? Have the demons in some way been conspiring to get all the appropriate bloodlines and make essentially the Antichrist happen? But again, it's not just about bloodlines. It must be through about suffering. You know, I need X person to be with X person. That person needs to be an abusive husband. So how do I make that happen? Well, I'm going to go and visit them when they were young, and I'm going to conspire so that this person meets this person at this age. That person's going to be a bad person. And that ultimately I'm kind of trying to condense a bloodline of kind of basically evil, essentially. Now, but what's interesting is that, you know, with something like Dune and the Bene Gesserit witches, they know exactly who everyone is. When Lady Jessica in Dune does not go with who she's meant to be with, which, spoiler alert, I think is Fade Routher, is supposed to be Jessica and Fade Routher are supposed to get together and produce the Kwisatz Haderach. But that's not what she does. And it's like, shit, and it all goes wrong because now the bloodlines are all fucked. So I just kind of go, how did they lose track of it? Or is it just not that specific? I don't know. But anyway, that was my thing. And so then when Sam turns up on the scene and she is who she is, it's like, holy shit, you're who? I'm partly responsible for your even existence. Because 2 centuries ago, I made this person really nasty by fucking with their life. And then I don't know, I'm just kind of playing around with that idea. Maybe it doesn't work, and that's fine.
I don't think it's all bad. No, I think there's something to this kind of grander plan.
Yeah.
I wonder though if, like, rather than like a bloodline kind of a thing, is there some sort of, you know, we've talked about from the Celestials that there's some kind of potential prophecy or some reason that they know that now Sam is here, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Has there been this prophecy that is the same on both sides, and that the way that the demons have been trying to make the prophecy come true is by creating pain and suffering in the world? Because by creating pain and suffering, you will ultimately create an evil human that will then embody what they're looking for. Now, they're not. Sam clearly comes from a childhood of pain and suffering. She comes from a dead mother and an alcoholic father who made her feel like she's nothing and worthless. But what there could be a misinterpretation potentially of the prophecy if we decided to go there. Or there could be this kind of thing whereby throughout the last 2,000 years, the more pain and suffering that they could cause, eventually they will weed out, they will bring forth through pain and suffering
Right.
the ultimate evil human, which is what the Antichrist ultimately is, and that evil human would then be the way to, bring Lucifer to earth.
Totally. It's one of the things we talked about the other day,
know,
wasn't it? Is she going to become a human vessel for
something like that?
Yeah.
Or, but is there some kind of but you need to be truly evil in order to do this? So we would need to have pushed various parts of humanity so far that eventually that spirit or that vessel is there, and then with an act of pure evil is the thing that ultimately solidifies the in fact, this could be really cool. Like, is there some way in which the demons start tempting Sam, and that there is kind of a moment where she could, in theory, take out murder someone in cold blood or kill someone in cold blood, and that act of pure evil could be the thing that causes her to do it, but she makes the choice to not do it.
Yep, that's interesting. That's
I'm
interesting.
like kind of like going down a whole other path here, but I'm just trying to think of like, if part of the mission of the demons for 2,000 plus years has been to make the kind of environment ready for the Antichrist to come to Earth.
Yep.
Similarly to, like, some religious cultures believe that the Messiah hasn't come yet, and how do we create an earth that would be worthy of the Messiah, right? How do they create a human race that is so inflicted with pain and suffering and darkness that it is worthy for the Antichrist to be born?
Totally.
And have that been this like continuing mission? And they constantly are coming up. I mean, and here's where I kind of go, there's some fun to be had in the complexities of it, is like, it shouldn't always just be the same thing. Like, for millennia, like, they've been coming up with new and interesting
and again, it's not big like, oh, I'm going to create a war. It's like, what can I do to fuck up this person's life? And make them go down a dark path.
But they also could have created a war.
They also could have created a war as one big, enormous thing. And when that's not happening, you're moving the chess pieces around and just trying to make this environment of darkness.
So, I mean, what's also kind of interesting is that from a thematic point of view, like, there might even be a way to create some relevance to this idea based on how divided humanity is right now, based on kind of the level of darkness and evil that is kind of coming to the surface even today. And since this movie is present day, it almost like there is some commentary that is naturally being had, saying, oh, well, now is the perfect time for the Antichrist to be born.
Totally,
because
absolutely.
humanity is ready to be taken down that path.
I think we should just pause for a second because we are approaching the half an hour mark. We are going to split these up into half an hour segments after the live stream is done. So we'll pause episode 10 and now go into 10.1. So thank you for
10.2.
Oh yeah, 10.2. That was 10.1. Now we're 10.2. This is why I have you around, Ben, to constantly correct me.
Corrections.
So in the first half of today, we are focusing on our demon character, who is interestingly, our other protagonist of our story. She is a very deep character. So we've been just trying to delve into really asking the question at the start, which is, what does it mean in our lore, in this world, to be a demon? Ultimately, where we are at the moment is that they are creatures who are here to create suffering, but for a purpose. The purpose is so that at some point, the perfect vessel will be born to house Lucifer's immortal soul. And that this is all part of a bigger plan to bring their Dark Master to Earth. And so what is going to obviously be very shocking for our demon character is to suddenly go, oh, hang on a minute. The person who I'm going to be charged with, quote unquote, helping is the character, the person who when I was a full card carrying demon was trying to create and make.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah. So, and that, I think, so leaving that on the table for right now, even though it's somewhat broad, I actually think it's just enough
It's specific
specificity
enough.
past demon lore to then ask the next big question, which I asked already, but I'll ask it again.
Mhm.
What happened
Yeah.
100 years ago where Charlize said, I don't want this anymore?
Hmm.
Why did she change her mind?
It's a great question, and ultimately, as well, is yes. While I think there was one singular thing that happened that pushed her over the edge, there were a series of events leading up to it. Now, what I haven't got an answer to is why this demon developed a conscience. I haven't got an answer to that
So
question.
here's I guess my follow-up question to that is, could we not create a version of demons that, while possibly shape-shifting monstrous entities from the underworld, they do have an element of consciousness or moral compass that they again choose, right?
Yeah.
Conscience.
Yes. Yeah.
That whereby they're not that different from humans, and the reason I'm going there is because ultimately where we said Charlize is going to go is to realize that she's a demon, and she can choose to be a good demon and not a bad demon, and that while maybe she was raised in the underworld with other demons and believed that her purpose in existence, like all the other demons, was to bring evil and darkness to the world, that actually demons are capable of being good. Had Sauron not been the person in charge of the orcs, maybe the orcs would have been like elves. Like, is there,
isn't it? Which, it goes to that concept again of Lucifer, is that Lucifer was God's favorite angel. He was his favorite. He was the one he left in charge when he went away for 2 weeks to Hawaii. He was the one who was like, look after it. Don't sit in my chair. But you're my favorite. And then this angel developed bitterness and hatred and jealousy. And when I'm going to take over, I'm better.
And there is an aspect of going, and it kind of hits at a bit of a human idea and a human theme of this nature versus nurture, which we've dealt with in a few other projects in our time. And if you're born in the underworld and everyone around you teaches you from your earliest years that humans are bad, we hate them because they get all this wonderful stuff and we get none of it, but one day we're going to bring forth the Antichrist, and then the surface of Earth is going to be ours, and fuck the humans. And if you're raised to believe that, there's no reason to believe anything else. And you would be raised to be a monster.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it kind of hits at this other aspect as well about religion in one sense. And I don't think we should be in any way overt about it.
No.
But if you were born in ancient Greece, you believed in Zeus because that's what you believed. And if you were born in medieval Europe, you believed in God. Because that's what the culture was at the time. If you were born in America in the 1300s and you're a Native American, you had a whole set of other beliefs. Like, you are raised with the beliefs that you are raised with, and I think that was the case with her. Again, I don't imagine that demons go through childhood. I think they're probably just created and then they exist, and kind of like the Uruk-hai. They're like the Uruk-hai in that sense.
I mean the earlier years of her.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's okay.
I agree. I don't think you have, like, down in the underworld, a bunch of kid demons going
to demon school to learn the.
But if you imagine, and look, you will never see this in the movie, but if you imagine that a demon is potentially hatched out of the earth, out of fire and brimstone or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
They probably do start off they don't just immediately know how to do everything.
Totally.
You
Yeah.
know, they don't immediately know where they are, what they are, how to
Sure.
behave, how to act. They
Right.
would essentially be raised to a certain
Mhm.
degree to become part of the demon horde, to
Sure.
become part of this empire in the underworld. And
Sure.
so I I think what's interesting about Charlize is something should have happened to Charlize, and maybe it is the ghost, or maybe it is not the ghost, but also kind of related to that. I'm not
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, whereby her moral compass didn't fully swing in the other direction,
No.
but it got fucked with.
Yes, sure.
All of a
She
sudden,
saw
she went,
something, she experienced something, was just like,
I
"Oh,
don't
fuck."
know that everything I've been taught my entire life is necessarily true.
Right.
I don't know if being a demon is necessarily better than being human.
But I
In
didn't
fact,
try and stop the demons from doing what they were doing. I just went, "I'm out."
something like that.
Yeah, something like
Now,
that.
there would have to be a pretty strong push for her to leave, and for her
There
to
would.
escape, and for her to go into this,
Was it
you
some
know.
kind of like, where my mind is going, and it's probably cliched, so forgive me, but like, they were gonna kill all the women and children in this town because they were trying to make the chieftain of the town go bad and sink into despair and sorrow for some reason. And
Sure.
she was like, I can't fucking kill a town of women and kids. I'm not going to do that. But something along those lines. She didn't stop the demons from doing it. It still happened, but she was like, you know what? I don't think I want to do
I
this
think
anymore.
they just go, and this is, look, here's the other thing. Maybe nobody's fucking asking these questions, but I'm asking
Totally.
them right now.
Yeah.
And so I go, what made that? Because I don't believe that this demon, who is part of the demon horde, who went out into the world to, whether it was possess a child or murder a entire
Granny, murder a
family,
blind granny.
yeah,
Yeah.
be crazy granny or whatever it is, like blow up a building, whatever it might be. I just don't believe that if she was truly part of this group, why does she all of a sudden go, oh no, I can't kill those people?
Again, I don't
Why?
think it was all of a sudden. I think like we're talking about with Sam in this movie, what were the degrees whereby that happened? Oh, I started to have a niggling in my stomach that just something didn't feel right, but I just went along with it because that was it. But then slowly,
Right.
as the centuries passed, I just began to go, this isn't right. There's got to be more to existence than this. This doesn't fulfill me in any way. And on the day she was asked to, wipe out a Romanian orphanage, she went, you know what? I'm not doing it. Do what you got to do, but I'm out. Something like that. That's my instinct.
Okay,
I'm
so
going to pause
if
for a second.
she's
I've got a really dry mouth and my water bottle is empty, so I'm just going to pause for a moment. I'll stop my cam and mute myself. So Ben, just riff for like 30 seconds.
I'm gonna just riff for 30 seconds. All right. Well, this is really interesting. Gosh, this is what it must feel like actually to be a solo writer, where you just sit here and kind of go, I wonder what I should write about today. It was interesting. We were just having we were on a podcast, a wonderful podcast, and we were just talking about the difference between solo writers and partnerships, and how I was literally saying, like, I don't know how I would do it.
Yeah.
And there you just got a taste of it. Me sitting there going,
It's going, what the fuck is this? I don't know. Here's what we should have done during that time. We should have, thank you. We should have asked our viewers to just remind them to subscribe to this channel. Again, if you are getting anything out of this, please do. And also, it's the main part of this is so that we can appear on YouTube's, YouTube's algorithm. The more subscribers you have, the more likely you are to appear in searches. So please just go ahead, hit that subscribe button as well. Give the video a like, and so that this can get out to as many people as possible.
So back to demon mythology. I'm wondering if, okay, I like this idea. I'm having a thought here.
Okay.
What if there's a concept that we create whereby this is not necessarily the first time this has happened. This is not the only person that's ever, the only demon that's ever gone astray. But then when demons start to show signs of morality, they're killed.
That's interesting.
So no matter what Lucifer and the underworld has done, creating these creatures, there's this overriding nature to the universe that starts to slowly, for some, eat away at them, and then all of a sudden start to show a little rebellion, a little independence, a little we're not necessarily part of the pack, a little are we sure this is the right thing? Maybe we don't want this. And every time that's ever happened, the powers that be, the great evil ones that are in charge, and maybe, interestingly enough, these are fallen celestials that are really the rule, not Lucifer, but like 4 other like fallen celestials or some shit like that.
Pestilence, plague, war, and death. Yeah.
But you know, maybe it's we thin the pack.
Yeah.
And that also is like that happens. Like whenever you have someone that's starting to go against the grain, you want to get rid of them so that they don't start to spread, right?
And that's why she's in hiding.
Correct. She knew somebody saw her, and she knew she's been around long enough that if somebody saw her do what she did, which was save a life or stop a murder, that would get reported back to the bosses and she'd be killed.
Right.
But she's evolved just enough even more to go, I don't want to die. I actually want something for me, which is not the way of the demon.
Right.
Which is, you know, the demons are supposed to want for the underworld. For the hive, for the pack, for the whatever. All of a sudden she goes, I want more.
I want something different. Yeah. I stepped away from that.
There's someone, so we get this moment. I don't know if it's in flashback or prologue, or maybe it never fucking happens.
Maybe it never happens. Maybe it's one line.
There's a demon who sees her and she goes, fuck, I can't let you live or you're going to report on me. And yet at the same time, if I kill you, they're going to come after me, which gives me the better option. I'll kill you and then I'll run.
Absolutely. I like that. I think that's really, and again, whether we see that, whether we hear that in one line, whatever it is. Yeah, completely. Great. Why don't we open up our scratch pad? Let's open up our pad. Let's get some of this down before we instantly forget it, because our brains are just like sieves. And it happens all the time.
Seriously. Right?
And we've got to come back to this on Monday, having been away from it for a couple of days. Also, just to let our viewers know, you may be having a baby any day now, mightn't you?
Yes, I am scheduled. My wife is going to be giving birth to our second daughter, and it may happen any day. So if at some point during one of these incredible live streams I go, see ya,
gotta go.
Not probably not because I have to go pee, but rather because I have to go to the hospital.
Yeah, he doesn't need a glass of water. He needs to go and support his wife having a baby.
Exactly. And actually, and to be clear, our intention is to continue with this wonderful work, even through the birth of my new child. Even though I will be doing some paternity time and taking time off from our regular stuff, we're hoping to continue this hour a day and keep pushing this script forward. So we'll see how that goes.
It just keeps Ben fresh. Keeps Ben fresh. Keeps Ben engaged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're calling her Charlize.
Yes, but names to it's like the naming of a child in many respects.
And as we've said, we're gonna take her from understanding that she does have the option to be more than a demon.
Yeah.
It's not what you are. who you
Yeah.
are, and your choices are what determines.
It says your choices that define you.
So what we just said, just to get it down on paper, is that the demons for millennia have been creating pain and suffering in the world in the hopes to bring forth the Antichrist
as potentially a vessel for
potentially a vessel to bring their Dark Lord back, essentially to bring their
to
Dark
Earth.
Lord to Earth. And
it's interesting. The idea of this Dark Master being a fallen celestial means that he could still be bound, or she could still be bound by the rules of celestials, which means you cannot inhabit the mortal plane.
Yeah, if it's magic in that sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe it's like if they get brought to Earth, us the underworld could kind of take over.
Completely.
Charlize was part of this, right? Was part of this. However, over time, she started to develop a very minor moral compass, as well as the desire for something more. Others in the past have had gone astray like this and started to show independence from the pack. And they have all been killed. You know, it's their way, basically. To thin, to basically wipe out any potential resistance.
Absolutely. I have a question, and it's born out of this thing that we're writing right now, and it's born out of ultimately what we have said she's going to get out of this, which is she is promised by this celestial, by this angel character, that she is going to be granted a soul. What does that mean? Why does she want one?
Good.
She's developed already a moral conscience. She has a natural feeling of right and wrong. We have established that she can be quote unquote killed, but does that death mean you are just bound to hell for eternity? If you're a demon and you're killed, you still live, but you are in some horrible state of existence. But if you have a soul, could you truly die and ascend and have the possibility of ascending to a better place? I don't know.
Yes, maybe. I'm wondering, you know, I'm promising you a soul and the heaven thing. I want to pull back a little bit and go, this idea of what she is and the fact that, you know, demons by their very nature are evil. Just because she started to develop a conscience, when she looks in the mirror, what does she see?
She's like a vampire who doesn't want. She's like Angel in Buffy. She has this part of her
that will never go away.
That will never go away. Is there a moment where we see that and it comes out?
Yes.
Oh, fuck. You know,
that there is an animal inside. She's a werewolf that can't help but turn into a monster, or a vampire who can't help but be attracted to blood.
Right.
There should be a part of her that no matter what she does, death, pain, and suffering will follow her forever. In fact, I would say that when she first entered the human world and she first left demonkind, she didn't live in a cabin in the woods.
Sure.
That for the last 100 years, what she has realized to herself is that she can't get rid of being a demon. That's what she believes.
Sure.
That pain and suffering will always follow her, and that's because she's a demon. What she doesn't realize is that the human experience isn't just about joy.
Right.
That
Sure.
our pain and suffering is part of what makes us human. And
Yep.
that actually her isolating herself was never necessary. And
Yeah.
that she could have chosen to, yes, she is a demon, but she could still contribute to the world.
Mhm.
She could
Mhm.
still do things and make the best choices that she can make to
Completely.
try and counter the fact that maybe she's done bad things in the past or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Mhm.
So is there this sense for her that it's not about being granted a soul, but it's about being human?
Yeah. Sure. Okay.
I
I
want
will be able to lose that part of myself that I lose control over. Bruce Banner becomes just Bruce Banner once more.
Mhm.
You know.
And maybe this could stem all the way back to what does she really, really want? Maybe it's love. I mean, I'm
Mm,
just like going there for a second. Like
mm,
maybe whatever this moment was that she saw that made her turn was
yeah.
the purest form of love. It was a mother and
That's
daughter
really interesting. I
together,
really like that. I
like,
really
like,
like that.
and that when she witnessed this love, she was like, I want that.
Yeah.
I want that. I want that feeling. That is something that's impossible for me to have.
Yeah.
So she left the demon world and
Uh-huh.
tried to get it, and she couldn't get it. But
Right.
she was going about it the wrong way. She hadn't fully evolved out
Yep.
of being a demon. She was still cold
Yep.
and she was still potentially mean at times and didn't fully understand things and was
Mhm.
violent because, like you said, she can't control the fact that she's still
She
half
has this thing
monster.
inside of
Right.
her. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that the promise is the only way she believes, truly, truly believes that the only way she would ever be able to experience true love is by being a human.
Mhm.
And that is the one thing that she could never, ever have as a demon.
Mhm.
And what she realizes somehow, I don't know how, I don't have all the answers,
It's all right. Don't
but
need to.
somehow through this, she realizes she was wrong.
Yeah, I like that. That's really interesting. That's really interesting.
You know, one day she's on a job and witnesses
Something she's
true
yes, yeah.
human love in the form of a mother willing to sacrifice herself for her
Oh,
child.
that's just what I was thinking too. A mother willing to sacrifice herself for a child.
She realizes that it's that emotion that she wants.
Mhm.
And when she lets them live, another demon sees her.
Yeah.
And so she has a choice. Risk being killed for her going against the norm,
Mhm.
or kill this demon and run.
Now, there's something interesting again about like who this demon is. Is this demon the demon she quote unquote killed and bound to 100 years of non-existence or whatever it was, and now he's back and it's like, oh, of course it's you.
That's interesting.
You know,
So, like,
again, it's that question.
almost like
do
when
they
a
have
demon dies, they go to the phantom zone, basically.
Yeah, totally.
Huh.
Yeah. When
That's
a demon, I mean,
interesting.
it's interesting. It's like, what does banishing a demon mean? You know, oh, for X amount years, you're not allowed to come out.
I mean, do we not? I guess the question is, do we not want demons to be able to really die? Like, is that then taking away the stakes of what could even in theory?
I don't know. I mean, here's the thing, you know, like if I kill you and whenever I kill you, you're banished for 100 years. I go, yeah, it's like, you're not an immediate threat to me. You're not getting right back up now. For all intents and purposes, for now, you're gone. You know, I just like the idea. I like I mean, ultimately what I'm trying to get at, which is something that we talked about earlier, was can we have somebody from her past who was in her past be the one who is going after her now?
So
And
make it be her
particularly
best friend or lover. In fact, let it be like her partner or whatever, and she doesn't kill him. She bashes him over the head or whatever it is and runs. And they're still there.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I just don't want to. I want to be clear, like when we kill the vampire, that the vampire's gone forever. You know, like
Right.
I want there to feel like we're winning
Some
for
kind of
real. And this
finality.
isn't just going to happen again in 100 years.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, whoever it was, there is someone pursuing her from her past, and whether it's this
Right.
demon or it's someone who, or it's not, you know.
Stop this demon and run. You know, maybe this demon is her friend / partner, and she doesn't kill them. Now they are the main hunter. They've been like promoted. Who's coming after her? Something along those lines. And then what we were just saying is that over the next 100 years, 100 years, Charlize tried to find love among humans.
Totally.
But she couldn't control that she was still a demon.
Right.
And decided that she would never be able to have this unless she could one day become human.
Yeah, great.
This is the desire
Yep.
that the Celestials take advantage of and promise her.
Yep.
For
yes,
in the beginning.
Yes, great, fantastic.
Okay.
This is really great. I really like where this has gone. It makes her super complex.
Yeah,
it's really interesting, and yet obviously it plays in tropes and ideas that we understand, but seeing them from ways that we never have before.
Totally.
I really like even this concept of the Antichrist being the kind of result of centuries of mistreatment of mankind. You go, oh, okay, I've heard of this concept of this Antichrist figure before, but I never knew that they were all the while trying to make this thing happen, like the Kwisatz Haderach in June.
Right. Let's take a quick pause, and so that we can cut the episode down again, and we'll go into 10.3.
Sounds good. So thank you for continuing to watch. This is episode 10.3 of Ben and Jake Write a Movie. We stream this all live in one go, but we split it up into easily bite-sized chunks for your viewing pleasure. Right now, today, we are talking about one of our secondary protagonist, our demon character, who we imagine will be played by Charlize Theron. We're currently calling her Charlize, but we'll come up with a better name at some point. We have been developing her character today, going into her backstory, discovering what it means to be a demon, that the demons have this big, bold plan to bring the Antichrist to Earth, and that's been kind of part of their sinister behind-the-scenes meddling in mankind for millennia. And that at some point, our demon character said, I'm not really down with this anymore, and left. But that is never able to really truly escape what her true self is, which is this demonic entity. What does that look like in action? We'll figure that out. Do they actually transform? Do they just have some kind of demonic quality when they get super angry?
Yeah,
that is.
I think
that out.
That's an interesting place to start. So I'm thinking that, and this is a very broad concept. It's like 30,000 feet in the air view. But I think that the thing that she naturally brings with her is the thing that all demons bring with her, which is pain and suffering. Right? It's what we were just talking about a minute ago. She believes that as a demon, she'll just always bring pain and suffering to other humans.
Right.
That's
something interesting, isn't it? Does it kind of follow her around?
And there's the cloud over what's her name in Peanuts.
Yeah, totally. But then what's interesting is that there's a similar comp to Sam, isn't there? Like Sam just thinks that her life is a fuck up, that she's just unlucky.
Control.
Bad shit happens. Totally.
Yeah.
Bad shit happens wherever she goes, and it's like, oh, that's just my lot in life. You know?
Control over their lives. Now, are there people that are alive today that she might believe she's responsible for their pain and suffering? I don't know why I'm having this vision, right, of the 85-year-old like grandfather or something, where I don't know why I'm getting an echo also. Sorry about that. Something's going on with
Sometimes it happens. It's weird. I experienced it yesterday where I would speak and I would hear myself back through your screen. I don't know why. It's not happening right now, but yeah.
So, damn StreamYard software. Hopefully it's not too annoying to all of you listening right now. But
I can't hear it on my end, just so you know.
Great. So what I'm thinking is like, is there like the 85-year-old person whom she feels that their pain and suffering was her fault, and thus has like either kept in touch with or paid for their like nursing home and like in private or in secret, or has done something like, is there an interesting kind of supporting character that we can personify this belief and then ultimately go back to them or have a moment with them at some point where they're like, this had nothing to do with you. You didn't cause this. Like, is there a way to directly make her go, I've always thought that this dark cloud came with me, and you're actually saying that it wasn't me, that you actually had your own problems and I didn't cause them, and that you created your own pain and suffering, and it wasn't my fault? I've always thought it was my fault because that's what demons did. We created pain and suffering.
There's a version of it, yeah. I think it still needs mining a little bit. I mean, and I go, what's the practical purpose of it? There is a character moment, and then also allows us to then move onwards with the journey. Again, I think a little bit about the scene in Midnight Run where they go to Chicago and they go and visit Jack's old wife and daughter, and it's because they need to borrow the car. You know, there is actually a reason to go there. And through the going to this place, they go, oh, you know, this allows a redemption somewhat to come out. And you get, you know, Jack, who hasn't seen his daughter in 9 years, gets to connect again. You get a nice character.
And there's also the potential for it to be an obstacle and a place to have another kind of cool moment. I think of, and I know it's kind of a weird comp, but I think of the farmhouse scene in Logan.
Totally. Yes,
right?
It's a great idea.
Like,
yeah.
Can we have maybe she does, they don't know where to go. They're being hunted. The demons are after them. And and they're like, I know one place where we could go. And it's this person's place. And maybe they're not in their 80s. Maybe it's like Michael Caine, although he might be in his 80s.
He probably
is in his 80s. But it's someone like a Michael Caine, right?
Yeah.
And in the way
the thing, though, I think that he should know her.
Yes. I think they knew each other when they were young, and that she thought she did something to his life and disappeared, and now she's coming to him for the first time in 20 years, and she's been like thought all this time that it was her fault, that like, let's say he got, I don't know, he got cancer, or he got or he had a drug problem, or he had something, like we come up with some specific. And she was like, I love this man, or I care about this man enough to say I need to leave. And that was the last person she ever cared about before she went off and lived in the cabin in the woods.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I think we'll keep mining this idea. It's got to be. I'm just trying to play it through in my mind, but I think there's definitely something there that we can utilize. You know, it's great. Some men just want to watch the world burn, Mr. Wayne.
Yeah, character. Is there a Michael Caine character who she knew when he was younger and believed she was responsible for his pain. Now he's where they end up going, and she learns it wasn't her at all. You know, another thing that I think of in that, and I always loved the way that in Skyfall, Bond returns to his old home. And I know it's like, again, it's totally different, but it's this idea of going to this place that had pain associated with it and making your peace with that as part of your character growth.
Completely. I'm going to be that guy and say, Michael, that Kane has an eye in it. I know it's just a scratch pad for us. But
yes, there will be typos.
There will be typos. I know. I made a post on Reddit publicizing this podcast, and a very astute reader said, it's not me and Ben, it's Ben and I. And I was like, thank you so much.
All right, we actually have a couple of comments right here from Riley. Thank you, Riley. He says, loving the show, boys. So cool to see your process. One pitch for you after listening yesterday. Could Sam's mother have died in childbirth, and maybe this connects her to being the Antichrist? And her dad has always blamed her, which has made her blame herself, leading her to being a fuck up and needing the mother to figure in her life. Really, really interesting idea, Riley. Thank you. I do want to just comment for all of you listening that we would prefer that we don't get creative suggestions from our audience, only because, and this is not because they're bad ideas.
It's not because they're bad ideas.
We don't ever want it to be construed as though we are stealing your ideas. We can steal from movies, but we can't.
That's fine.
Okay.
We don't want there to be any. But again, like to be clear, it's really nice that people are engaging. And
I love it. I love it.
Absolutely.
I absolutely am so open to questions, or comments potentially about the process. But when it comes to actual creative ideas, for two reasons, the main one being just legalities, but then the second one is, the idea here is that Jake and I are letting you into kind of our writer's room. And of course, Riley is clearly a very smart and imaginative person. Absolutely. And he wouldn't be in our writer's room while we were doing this. And so we want to be able to figure these ideas out on our own and kind of let you guys into that process of how we challenge ourselves and get through these problems. Absolutely. But again, thank you.
Appreciate the feedback. It means a lot that
and it makes it so much fun, and I love that you're watching. But again, I want to reiterate: questions, awesome. Process questions, fantastic. We are happy to stop at any time to answer and chat about anything not creative idea related.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Great. This is all going really well. Michael Caine character. I think that's really interesting.
I'm digging it.
I'm digging it too.
What? So in this sense, okay. Let's again take a step back. So 100 years ago, she had this thing. She left. She tried to be around humans. Wasn't working out so well. Felt like she was never going to find true love. She met this Michael Caine character. Felt like she ruined his life somehow. Whatever it was that she did, she blamed herself for, which ended up not being her at all, but she blamed herself. And thus, thinking that she's always been just a demon, there's no way to escape that, she flees into the Colorado mountains, finds a cabin in the woods, and becomes Dexter. So Dexter now, Charlize Dexter, starts living in the woods, in a cabin above this small town in Colorado. And what has she been doing there? How long has she lived there? How well does she know these people? It can't be that long. One of the things that I always found really interesting when dealing with any sort of immortal type character is that you don't age. So you can't stay in the same place for more than maybe 10 years before people start going, why do you still look so
So,
good?
you've got a really good skincare regime. Yeah,
Right?
I think that's right. I think every between 5 and 10 years, she moves to another small town in the middle of nowhere, and yeah,
Yeah, 5 or 10
yeah,
years. But she's probably been at this one a while, right? And
totally.
long enough to actually care about a couple of the people. Because as we talked about
Yeah,
earlier, a plot moment will be a demon's going to show up in this town, unbeknownst to, not unbeknownst, but not knowing that she's there.
yes,
And ultimately, they're going to get into a confrontation. So she's
right.
probably been there, been in Colorado now for
7 years.
7 years. Ooh, it'd be really cool.
That would be really cool.
This is just going into like immortality and world building and lore and shit like that. Like, what if? So I go to Colorado. I buy this cabin in the woods.
Uh-huh.
Right. I live there for 10 years and I move on. But I don't sell the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
I wait 50 years or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I can come back to the same
Yeah,
town
sure,
again.
that's cool. Yeah. Okay, that's
Like,
cool. I
is
like
there
that.
a way to because anyway, what I'm thinking is like, is there a place that they end up going that's like one of her old
Oh,
spots,
that's interesting. That's really interesting. That's really
right?
interesting. And this could be cool. She lived here 20 years ago, and she goes through town and it's like, Charlize, my goodness, you haven't aged a day. You know?
Yes.
And she
And she's
knows
like,
the
no, I'm
people.
actually her daughter.
Right.
You
That's
know,
interesting. I like that. I like
um,
that. Yeah.
something like that. And then
Sure.
also, and this is just another question. It's so practical, and so it's one of those stupid things sometimes that I ask, and it probably drives Jake nuts because it's detail oriented. But like, do demons eat and sleep?
Well, that's what I was going to feel like. Does she need a job?
Does she need a job? Does
Yeah.
she, take a shit? Like what does she need in her life? Does she like I for some reason I just think of like demons as in the classic sense of like just being monsters, and I never think of monsters as sleeping or eating or anything. But then you go, well, a vampire does,
This is
you
true.
know,
This
in
is
their
true.
own way.
Yeah.
And so maybe our versions of demons, as we kind of have been making them a little bit more like vampires, a little bit,
Mm.
is like, what does she need? What is her fuel? What is her
Yeah.
natural?
What's the fun? What's the fun thing? You're like, oh, I have to stop
Yeah.
and get. It's not this. Like, I have to stop and get some vinegar. Why? It's what we drink. She opens a bottle
Hot
of cider
sauce.
vinegar and just gulps it down.
She
You're like,
drinks
whoa.
Cholula
Yes.
or like Tapatio.
Tabasco.
I love that actually, like they drink hot sauce.
That's a fun little detail, though, isn't it? Whatever it is, it's like, what do they?
It's just the kind of thing. I don't even know that like you would necessarily pay a ton of attention to it, but at one point she's with her and she just cracks open a bottle of Tapatio and just starts drinking it.
And you're like,
And you're
really?
just like,
Oh yeah, no, it's what we
the
drink.
fuck?
Yeah.
And she's like, what, you want some?
Yeah, totally. That's a fun idea. And again, it's just that like little unique character thing. You just go, oh, do you remember in that movie? And then it becomes a whole thing that YouTubers try and do. Can we copy Charlize Theron by drinking a whole bottle of hot sauce? And it becomes an internet phenomenon.
Yeah, TikTok.
The new Tide Pod.
The hot sauce drinking contest. So she lives off of like hot sauce and like, anything.
Honestly, if it was just that, I'd be like, fine, cool, got it.
Okay. I was gonna say like char, like anything that's like the burnt part of like any food. like
I mean, that could be interesting. It's like, and it's like they go to a diner, and it's like
burger.
And for you,
black,
she's like, like burnt to a crisp.
Burnt to a crisp, and she just eats what's around it and like leaves the like center
Leaves
part
the
of the
main,
table.
like,
Really,
like, yeah, I
you
know.
know, I don't. Again, detail stuff we can figure it out when we actually
Totally,
get.
yeah.
But it could be fun,
It's fun.
Like char. But the other questions, just kind of detail wise, are And this again is like kind of silly, and yet also I'm just trying to think of like her having evolved now for 100 years, right?
Uh-huh.
Does like what is her personality evolved to, or has it just never fully like just because she's developed a moral conscience or decided she wants more doesn't mean she's changed
Yeah, I mean, ultimately,
personality-wise.
yeah, it's we will.
Does she have the quote
Yeah,
personality of a demon?
yeah, and what does that mean? You know,
Yes.
when I think about her, I think again, like going into this, you know, Charlize Theron, he's just got influencing very much in one sense, you know, kind of
We're not
mindset
writing
of
it
her.
just for her because there's
No, of course, absolutely, but just kind of
other
going, you
people
know,
yeah.
what is the, you know, wry sense of humor, slightly bitter, you know, but again, it's like I want to find that thing that contrasts in certain degrees with Sam, but allows
And
them to have a little
Sam is
bit of
gonna be the
something.
kind of I think Sam is the sarcastic.
Totally, yeah,
I think she's the kind of wise ass who is rebellious in the way that she behaves and talks, right?
sure. So what's the best
I
way to
wanna put
have
this down.
the scenes where they're going to be together, which is going to be a lot of our movie, a significant part
Yeah.
of our movie, you know, whereby we get the best character back and forth because we don't want them to be the same.
No, God no. I think that actually Charlize becomes the straight man in that sense. I
I
think
think
she
so. Oh, I think
becomes
so too. Yeah, I think so
well,
too.
the
Yeah,
Cole, I think she becomes the Arnold to a certain degree, the
yeah,
Terminator
I
in
think so
Terminator
too.
2,
Yes.
where you go, "Do you have any feelings at all?" And she's like,
Yeah,
"I'm a demon."
yeah. Sure.
Like,
Completely right.
you
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah.
like, "Do you care?" And she's like, "Well, I cared enough. Am I
Yeah,
supposed to care
sure.
more?" Like,
Right.
you know? Um, like, so personality is of a demon, but also like not a demon in the evil sense.
You know, yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, definitely not in the monstrous sense, but like even like she doesn't have a desire to be bad anymore. So there's
Mhm.
no her lack of potential empathy. In fact, that's
Yeah.
really interesting. Just saying like she lacks part of being a
Yeah, and I
demon.
think that's it. She lacks but again, it's difficult though. She doesn't completely lack empathy because she saw this wife and mother and child, you know, and was like, "Oh, I
Was
long,
that
I long for
empathy?
that."
Is that empathy? Or is that just that's something I've never felt that
Desire,
I
yeah,
want?
sure, yeah.
Did I empathize with that mother? I can't. If I've never felt if I've never had the feeling,
Of love,
literally, like because of the definition, I can't
yeah,
empathize.
right, sure. Okay, that's
Um,
interesting. So yeah, she, and also again, she's been alone for. I mean, while she knows certain people, it's not just these like enormously strong friendships.
yeah.
It's everyone
Yeah.
at an arm's length.
Yeah. And it's also, again, why the Celestials also come to her.
Right,
They assume she won't let her emotions get in the way of what
right,
she needs to do.
completely,
You
completely.
know? In fact, other than just love, there is a version whereby you kind of comp her a little bit to a psychopath and say like what she wants is to feel.
Yeah,
And that imagine like a psychopath going, I don't want to have to pretend to feel anymore. I want
yeah.
to actually
Actually,
feel.
feel.
And
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that's what being human is to her, and that's what she's promised. Not love
Mhm,
specifically,
mhm.
although love could be the emotion that makes her decide that, but
Yes,
that feeling anything, or
totally.
having any sort of true emotion
Yeah, could be.
is
Yeah.
what she wants.
At the very end, she could say, "Now I know why you cry. It's something I can never do."
Okay, so fine. We don't want to go too close to T2, but I don't think it would be the same because I am
No,
talking about more like she's a psychopath who doesn't have the ability
yeah,
to empathize,
Great.
to have those kinds of deep emotions because of what she was born as.
Yes.
And yet also, even though she doesn't get, I mean, what's interesting too is, let's say she doesn't, this is really complex for a movie like this, but let's say she doesn't get to be human at the end, which is what
totally. Yeah,
right?
completely.
Well, that means she's still a psychopath. And yet,
right.
and
and that's partly it. Sorry.
And yet, not just because you're a psychopath doesn't mean you have to be a bad person.
Sure.
People learn to live with that mental disorder. Right?
Yeah.
Like, is there a way that she goes, I was born this way, but I can learn to be better.
Yes, I can learn to be better.
I can take control over my life, you know?
Yeah. I like that.
Even though she's still kind of a psychopath. Psychopath. She can choose to learn to be better and live with what she is.
Yes.
Cool.
Great. I think this might be a good place to wrap up today on a Friday. We're at 1 hour and 26.
I think it's great. I feel very accomplished for today. Absolutely. Really got some nice backstory going for Charlize.
Yeah.
I think that the goal of coming with some names is probably a good one.
Great. Yes, 10 names. The mission.
Yeah,
to have 10 names by Monday.
And also, just a note to our viewers.
Yes,
we are thinking of doing something in the future that would involve potentially a guest that we would bring on to the show. It'd probably be separate from our regular writing work, but we would bring them on and do a kind of an interview. We know that there's a lot of other podcasts that kind of do that stuff. So it's definitely not what we're looking to do regularly, but there's something specific about the process that I think we can deal with specifically, because that's kind of what our thing is all about here, is by going through the process. And so I think it'd be cool to bring on other writers, not necessarily all screenwriters, to talk about their process and how that might differ from ours, and how they get their ideas and get story things, and how they work through all these challenges.
Completely. We do have really quickly. I'll just say we've got a question from Chris live on this. So while we're still here, should we just go ahead and answer it?
Let's do it. Let's do
Chris,
it.
Thanks so much for watching.
I'm gonna put
it says
here.
Given how relatively structured you are in your story development, do you treat set pieces as their own section, or does that come more organically when you dig deeper into plotting? That's a really, really good question.
So I'll answer that by saying both. So actually, set pieces are really important because
the type of movies that we write. Yeah.
What's that?
The type of movies that we write.
In the type of movies that we write. Yeah. I mean, look, if we were writing, Coda, there's not going to be a set piece in it, probably. But for what we do, which tends to be world building genre movies with action, set pieces are important. It's what's going to go in the trailer. It sometimes is what going to be the biggest parts of your pitch. They're going to take up a lot of the space in your screenplay. And so it's really important to find set pieces that not only are exciting and fresh and fit everything you're trying to do, but also that move the plot forward or the character forward. We really, really try to not do set pieces just for the sake of having a set piece. That's always been important to us. I don't know that we always succeed. And sometimes we look back at past scripts and go, man, like, we just did this on a script of ours and we took an entire set piece out because we were like, this actually doesn't contribute at all.
Absolutely. It was really interesting to see that. We were like, and it was a script that was an older script.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, wow, if this went, what would change? You were like, not a lot.
Exactly.
I think it's a really good question to ask yourself.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. Sometimes if we have an image for a set piece, we'll write it down right away. It'll be part of our plotting. We'll go, this set piece is going to go right here. Sometimes it'll come out of plotting and we'll go,
yeah,
hey, I mean, at this moment, you know?
Yeah. For example, the other day we were talking about the character of Sam. We were going, what is this? You know, who does she owe money to? Oh, she owes money to this guy. Oh, Charlize is going to turn up towards the end of Act 1. She kills that guy. Great. What's going to happen? Well, it's going to be a moment that comes out of that. And you naturally go, well, yeah, I'm going to want something at the end of Act 1 to give us a thrilling push into the second act of the movie and onwards. What is that? Well, it kind of was just born out of that kind of character, but we knew roughly that we were going to have something there. And again, sometimes we go, maybe there'll be something in the middle of the movie. What will that be? Don't know what that is, but let's kind of pencil that in. There'll be something. Sorry, I keep banging my mic. There'll be something there. There'll be something towards the end of Act 2, maybe. How big it will be, not sure. And there'll be something at the end. You know,
I was having a conversation. With someone recently about attention span of an audience and how 20 to 30 minutes is really the primary attention span of any real audience. And it actually, I started to think of it, we were talking a bit about it in terms of television, but I started to think about it in terms of movies and movie structure and how naturally we tend to go about every 20 to 30 minutes, we want a set piece.
Yeah.
And it just kind of goes that way because of like the way in which we kind of structure stories. But if you think about it, even just from an audience retention standpoint, you want to grab them into something. If they're there to watch an action movie, if they're there to watch a fantasy movie or something like that, you got to kind of grab their attention again about every 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you breathe afterwards. And that's when you get all of your really nice, juicy character moments.
Yeah.
And then you got to grab them again. Especially in this day and age of streaming where it's so easy to be watching a movie and 20 minutes in, if nothing's happened, you turn it off.
I know.
You go to the next thing.
Or
I can't tell you.
You know what it is? It's picking up your phone.
Oh, that's so weird. Yes, and you're not even
watching. Up my phone. I was watching a show the other day, and I just found myself picking up my phone. Right. And that was it. I was out of it.
But a really good set piece will bring you out of your phone and back to the movie. The key, though, is that it's not just action for action's sake, because I got to be honest, I will fall asleep, literally fall asleep during big set pieces that are just repetitive action.
Totally.
They will not grab me at all. But if there's real emotional stakes going on, or if there's real some tension or something that's really pushing the movie forward, that's when I'm like on the edge of my seat going, you know? So, yeah.
Anyway, Chris, hope that answers your question. I guess, do we treat it as their own section? No, I think generally it kind of blends.
Look at that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think generally, they fit within an act, and they often bridge acts. So yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, we will see you all. Actually, we may not see you on Monday. It is Rosh Hashanah. I am Jewish.
Yes.
So we will be off on Monday.
Well, there you go.
So we will see you on Tuesday.
And just a quick reminder, please subscribe to the channel. It's just about getting us seen. So I won't see you. I'll see you later. But you have a great night, Matt.
All right, Matt. Oh, yes. All right. Bye.